Hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome in SC100 Microsoft Cybersecurity Architect Training. Today is day 5. So since last 4 days, we completed different discussions moving around Microsoft Cybersecurity Architect topics and lots of things we discussed. Today is day 5 and this day we have designed for exam preparation. We'll see some exam guidance, what kind of different kind of certification overview we have. And also, we will revise what we have covered in our previous 4 days. So before starting the revision, let's see what we have already completed in last 4 days, especially seeing the topics. So in our day 1 agenda, what we covered, we were talking about what we have in Microsoft Zero Trust approach, what kind of deployment consideration we have, and what is RAM, Zero Trust Rapid Modernization Plan. We're also discussing about what comes under Cloud Adoption Framework. What is this? Why we should use it? Also talking about well-architected framework, WAF. So here we're talking about what is CAF, what we have in CAF secure methodology, especially for security, what options we have in CAF for security options. Then we have a design security with Azure Landing Zone. What is that Azure Landing Zone? Why we should use it? Also, then we were discussing about well-architected framework, the comparison between CAF and WAF. And if you talk about DevSecOps process, so how this is aligned with best practices in CAF. We also covered what we have in MCRA, Microsoft Cybersecurity Reference Architecture, and Microsoft Cloud Security Benchmark, MCSB. So these different topics we covered on day 1. And here we saw that we have some homework activity related to design a resilience strategy for ransomware and other attacks based on Microsoft security best practices. Here we saw some topics related to common cyber threats and attack patterns, ransomware protection, design solutions for business continuity and disaster recovery, BCDR, including secure backup and restore for hybrid and multi-cloud environment. Also talking about evaluate security for solution for security updates. So these are different topics, and I'm pretty much sure you have already completed these homework activities. Now in second day, we covered what we have in like design solution for regulatory compliance. So we're talking about what we have in regulatory compliance, translating compliance requirements into a security solution, addressing compliance requirements with Purview, also what we have in Priva, how Azure policy can be used to enhance security and compliance, and what is Microsoft Defender for Cloud. These all topics we have covered in the first, we can say in the first module. In the second one, we were discussing about what comes under identity and access management, especially if you are planning to design a solution for access to software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service. For all these, what kind of design solutions we have, design considerations we have, including hybrid on-prem, multi-cloud, including identity. And next is that next thing we have already covered, how to secure as Active Directory Domain Services, ADDS, what design consideration we have for B2B, B2C, and decentralized identity. Also covering modern authentication and authorization strategy, including conditional access, risk scoring, and many other things. We also covered conditional access and zero trust, how these are aligned to each other, what we have in workload identity, and design a solution to manage secret keys and certificates. These different things we covered in our second day lecture. And these were different kind of homework activities. Again, in these two topics, design solutions for securing privileged access and design solutions for security operations, we covered, like I requested you cover these different kind of homework activity in your free time. So these all are related to different topics moving around what we have in enterprise access model, identity governance, intra and ADDS, designing a solution for securing administration of cloud tenants, what comes under intra ID, including PIM, privileged identity management, entitlement management, and access review. Also, how to deploy this entitlement management, what comes under PAW, privileged access orchestration, including remote access. These different topics that comes under securing privileged access. In security operations, there were different topics related to security operations, design security operation capabilities in hybrid and multi-cloud environment, what comes in purview audit, what we have in SIEM solution, what we have in SOAR, XDR, how these are working together. There were different topics related to threat detections, MITRE attack framework, and mobile, enterprise, and industrial control system. Also, there were topics related to how to translate compliance requirement into security control, design a solution to address privacy requirements, including MISO Azure policy, and Defender for Cloud related discussions for regulatory standards and benchmark. These were different kind of topics in homework, and I'm pretty much sure you have completed lab activities as well that was related to the second day. Then day 3, we covered different kind of solutions moving around securing Microsoft 365. So here we were discussing about evaluating security posture for productivity and collaboration workload by using metrics. What we have in different XDR solution. We discuss about we have different kind of XDR solutions here, like Defender for cloud apps, Defender for identity, Defender for endpoint, Defender for Microsoft Defender for vulnerability management, Defender for Office 365. These different Defender components we were discussing here under this topic. We also covered what kind of design configurations and operational practice we have for Microsoft 365. Then securing data in Microsoft 365 using Purview. What comes under Copilot, what we have in Defender for Office 365 and cloud applications, and also evaluate design, especially device management solution that include Microsoft Intune. These different topics we covered in this under this main topic. And then for the next one that is related to application security, we were discussing about what different kind of application development security options we have. Talking about security posture for existing applications, threat modeling, what comes under security lifecycle strategy for applications, what solution we can design for API management and security, secure access for application, and many other discussions moving around application development and also how we can secure application using web application firewall. These all things we covered in this day 3, and there were some topics under homework activity related to data security, what comes under data discovery and classification using Purview, how to, basically evaluating solutions for encryption of data at rest in transit, including Azure Key Vault, what we have in Defender for SQL, Defender for storage. These all things we were seeing in homework, including some lab exercises. On fourth day, we covered some discussions related to what we have in SaaS, PaaS, and IaaS if you want to secure them. What we have security baseline for IoT workloads, what we have for web workload for AI services, and also security requirements for the container orchestration. These different topics we covered under this main topic. And then under another main topic, design solutions for security posture management in hybrid and multi-cloud environment, we covered these topics. Introduction to hybrid and multi-cloud environment, posture evaluation with MCSB, overview of integrated posture management and workload protection with Microsoft Defender for Cloud. What different kind of options we have in if you're managing hybrid and multi-cloud environment using Azure Arc. What we have in external attack surface management, then posture management using exposure management attack paths. These are all different things we covered, we discussed in this day 4. And there were some homework activity related to day 4, related to introduction to endpoint security. It specifies server security requirements, what we have in IoT and embedded device security requirements, what comes in labs, local admin password solution, then OT, operation technology, and industrial control system ICs. So these are different things that were inside the homework, also including some security service edge that is designed for network security and access, also including intra-global secure access, intra-internet access, and intra-private access discussions. These were all under homework, including some lab activities here related to secure infrastructure, security posture management, and endpoint security. So definitely, you would have completed these kind of homework activities and lab hands-on activities. Now today, we are here for day 5. Day 5 is for the exam prep. But before this, before going for any kind of certification overview, knowledge check, we will talk about what we have covered so far. Let's see what we have in revision. So in revision, we will revise everything, the main points, what we have covered in our last 4-day session. So with this, in starting, we're talking about what different kind of NT pattern design we have, what kind of NT pattern activities we see in any organization. So what are the NT patterns? NT patterns are kind of, you can say, common mistakes that mistakes we perform, or maybe that mistake is something related to any kind of false assumption that what your organization's IT team they have. So some kind of common mistakes what we see under anti-pattern is like skipping basic maintenance or securing cloud like on premises. If you are assuming that we can secure cloud like on-prem, that is a false assumption. Also wasting resources on legacy system, legacy kind of components, applications. Also trying to customize everything under artisan security options. Customizing everything is not possible. Also, disconnected security approach where different teams they are working independently and they are not working closely, especially related to when they are going to talk about security components. Then lack of commitment to life cycle. And lack of commitment to life cycle, we should follow a life cycle design for different kind of components, services. And if you're not following life cycle, we may face challenges. So there are different kind of NT patterns are possible. And here we have different kind of best practices that we can follow in organization. We should develop, implement any end-to-end technical security strategy. focused on durable capabilities and zero trust principle. So these are different things that what we see. Like we have some recommendation like asset-centric security should be there. Consistent principle-driven approach should be there. Pragmatic prioritization based on attackers' motivations, balance investments, configure before customize, and security is a team sport. Teams should be working together. These are different things we see in best practice and any kind of anti-pattern design, anti-pattern practice. So to enhance security, we have zero trust principle. Zero trust principle, where we have a very simple thumb rule that is never trust, always verify. Verify everything, every access, every request, verify all the time. So here, when we talk about verify explicitly, this is the main feature in zero trust, including others like use least privilege and assume breach. So in every request in cloud, every request should be verified, should be checked specifically in any explicit condition all the time. There should be no implicit kind of verification. Also in least privilege, we should use RBAC, role-based access control. So here basically the concept is assign or present only right or correct rights to correct person at correct time. So using RBAC, role-based access control, we can utilize these kind of least privilege access approach. We can also go for just-in-time access, JIT. We can also use JEA, just enough access. These are the things that we can use for enhancing least privilege access model. Then we have a risk-based adaptive policy. This can be used for enhancing least privilege access model. Also data protection against out of the band vector. These are different components that we see in using the least privilege access model. Also, we should understand that every new connection may be a breach. So for that security, we can minimize the blast radius. We can use segmenting access, segmenting network. We can encrypt all sessions and data, and we can use analytics for threat detections, maybe posture visibility, maybe we can say hunting activities. These all things we can perform under analytics. So these are different things that what we see in zero trust, and these are some concepts that we have to keep in mind. So whenever we go for Azure related components, in Azure we have different kind of services, different kind of features. These all are aligned properly to follow or to be, compliant with what zero trust model we have. In zero trust, we have 6 different pillars. These 6 different pillars are identity, endpoints, data, applications, infrastructure, and network. These 6 pillars we protect using different kind of protection options, using Defender, using different kind of other components, or identity security, data security, device security. So almost all the security components, these are moving around these 6 pillars. When we move forward, we'll see how and what different kind of security solutions we are using to protect all these. So here, when we talk about identity, endpoint, data, and other 3 pillars, initially we plan for federate cloud identity, synchronization, and we implement advanced security feature for my identity, like enabling MFA, conditional access. These things we can consider for identity security. Further, we can go for controlling our identity related to any organization using identity protection, governance options, also analyzing user device location risks in real time. These things will definitely help to enhance security in identity, and that would be aligned with a zero trust approach. Then we have endpoints. In endpoints, we have option that we can register the endpoints to the cloud identity provider, and we can control that devices. We can manage that devices. If the devices are compliant, then only data will be granted, data access will be granted. We can also enforce DLP, data loss prevention, and we can apply proper device and BYOD policies. Also, in additional deployment, we can move towards higher protection related to endpoint threat detections. We can also monitor this device risks. So different kind of components that we see under the endpoint security options. Next is data. For data, we can definitely classify the data. We can enable data labeling. We can apply encryptions to my data, access control, content marking. These all things comes under information protection in Microsoft Purview. Classifying, applying label, these all things are the part of data security, data protection. Also, if I want to control data leakage, for data leakage, we can use DLP policy, data loss prevention, to stop these kind of sharing over exposure related to any data. So first we start with the initial deployment, and then we move ahead to the additional deployment options are these objectives. Similar things we have for application, infrastructure, networks. So what we see here, when we talk about application in Zero Trust Deployment Guide in this technology pillar, initial deployment objective should be gaining the visibility into activities and data in your application, how application is being used, how application is deployed. So you should have monitoring and analytics for that application, including shadow IT. We can also protect sensitive information by applying policies. Additionally, we can plan for adaptive access and sensor controls, enhancing access security for that application. Different kind of consideration would be there. These are some that what we can follow. Now for infrastructure, the initial deployment objective should be monitoring the workload, generate alerts for any abnormal behavior, any activities. Also assigning app identity to any workload in case if you want to use that infrastructure workload without any kind of manual interaction. Also just-in-time access to access resources when human access is required. So different kind of components we can configure under infrastructure deployment objective. Also, we can block unauthorized deployment, enable granular visibility, segmenting user and resources access for each workload. These are different kind of considerations that we should keep in mind. Then we have network. In network, we can segment network, especially to, we can say, stop or reduce the blast radius or minimize the blast radius. We can also keep scanning for malicious traffic and payload. We can use encryption to ensure like any user to application internal traffic is encrypted. So network, we use segmentation, we use ASG, application security group, network security group. These are the components that we should have in our objective if you want to implement this. Segmenting, encrypting all traffic, these all things comes under in these kind of approach. Now, what comes in RAMP, Zero Trust Rapid Modernization Plan? So basically, RAMP is a kind of, we can say, a quick set of deployment guidelines. Zero Trust is very comprehensive guide. This takes some time to implement and apply the settings that is properly aligned to the Zero Trust. But a company who wants to start in cloud, if they will start going for Zero Trust, so situation would be they have to wait for months when Zero Trust will be properly implemented and deployed. So for that, we talk about what kind of important components we should enable in very starting. So if any company wants to start, they can use Zero Trust RAMP, Rapid Modernization Plan. In this Rapid Modernization Plan, what we see options for user access and productivity, where we can explicitly validate trust for all access requests in conditional access. We can enable user accounts for passwordless authentication, conditional access options, threat intelligence. For endpoint, we can enable Defender for endpoint. We can plan to, add endpoints to protect them using XDR components. For applications, we can enable Azure AD for all SaaS applications, VPN, and many other solutions. For network, we can establish basic traffic filtering and segmentations. So different kind of components that we can consider in a very initial phase for user access and productivity. For data compliance and governance, we should have ransomware recovery readiness. Data that we have in different places, how we can protect. We can protect using information protection, Defender for cloud apps, conditional access app control, DLP, that all things we should implement. Next is modern security operation, where we can streamline the response for common attack with XDR and endpoint identity and email XDR components. Give high visibility with modern security information, reduce manual efforts, where we can automate and we can configure. Especially, we can use SOAR capability. These automation will help us to handle alerts and incident properly. So these are some kind of top priorities. For as needed, we can also consider infrastructure and development related security options and operation technology OT and industrial IoT option. So RAMP is designed for initially or quickly deploy these kind of zero trust approach as quickly as possible with less efforts and time, where you can start using the cloud. In the same, we have CAF, Cloud Adoption Framework. So what is CAF? CAF is a kind of technical guidance, best practices, tools, documentation for any company who wants to adopt cloud, who wants to start using cloud. So here we have a set of different kind of guidelines, activities that we can use under cloud adoption framework, and these are known as methodologies. Different methodology, these are related to different kind of stage, different kind of process and activities. There are different methodologies that we use. These So basically this framework include these different kind of stages where we have defined a strategy, plan, ready, and adopt. And we have different kind of components in this. So especially for any company, if they wants to start using cloud, they first go for define a strategy where they look into what kind of motivation we have for this cloud project, what is business outcome, what kind of business justification we have, and maybe enabling priority for any project if you have any. Also in plan, we have planning phase where we basically look into what kind of digital state we have, digital state we have in our organization, what kind of inventory we have, if my organization is ready for cloud environment or not, if we have enough skill for this kind of cloud adoption or not. These all things comes under in the planning phase. Then we have ready phase. In ready phase, we plan for operating model, what we have in landing zone. Landing zone is basically is a kind of virtual environment where we implement all our resources for better management and control. Also in this phase, we talk about design area guidance, implementation options that comes under in the ready phase. Then in adopt phase, we start either migrating or start using the services in cloud. We start modernizing it and innovating new way of working, innovating new services and features. Now, in all these phases, security, management, and governance, these all things works along with all these four different kind of cloud adoption framework stages. In this, security is very important because this gives you risk insights, business resilience, asset protection, and many other different kind of benefits to secure, basically how we can secure the cloud environment. Here we have another component, we call it Cloud Adoption Security Review, CASR. If you remember, I was talking about if you're deploying your infrastructure using Azure landing zone. So using landing zone, what we see, in landing zone, we deploy virtual environment that is based on subscription, and also with a subscription option, what we see that we can better control our resource deployment. Now in this, when we talk about, do we have any option that can assess the security related to this Azure landing zone? So we have this Cloud Adoption Security Review. CASR is a kind of component that automatically scans your Azure landing zone environment and gives you recommendations. Basically, this gives you risk insights, security integrations, and operational resilience. These informations you will find there in basically moving around what security options you have implemented in your Azure landing zone. If there's some kind of things are missing, this will give recommendations what we can do. So this automatically assess your Azure landing zone environment. Now, what next we have? So when we talk about cloud adoption framework and Azure landing zone, so in a ready phase, Azure landing zone comes in picture. What is Azure landing zone? Azure landing zone is a kind of virtual security boundary. Within this boundary, we may have different kind of environment, design areas, applications, workload. So landing zone are basically based on subscription. If subscription is basically providing shared services, identity, connectivity, management, this is known as platform landing zone. And if in a subscription, maybe a subscription for hosting applications, so in that case, in that application hosting options. What do you say? Like if you're going to host application related components under any subscription, this is known as application landing zone. So these are different things that what we have in this landing zone option. Now, what next we have, what we're discussing in our previous days. So in Azure landing zone, we have some design areas like in environment. We see what kind of Azure billing and intra-tenant options we have, identity and access management, network topology and connectivity, resource organization. In compliance design areas, we talk about security, management, governance, and platform automation and DevOps. These all things are coming under Azure landing zone design consideration. So what next we see here, we have well-architected framework. Well-architected framework is a kind of assessment tool. We use this assessment tool to assess the cloud environment, especially related to 5 different kind of pillars like cost optimization, security, reliability, operational excellence, and performance efficiency. So here, this assessment tool gives you a series of questions for all these 5 different kind of pillars. And based on these questions, if you answer them correctly, this will give you a report that what is missing, what kind of design consideration you can refer, you can consider in case if you're planning for these kind of, you can say, if you're planning for different kind of implementations, or if you want to enhance the design in your organization, in your cloud. So here, especially for security, definitely we have different kind of questions that we have to answer, and this will give you design considerations for security. So well-architected framework is a kind of assessment tool that we use to assess the environment. So when you compare CAF and WAF, these are two different things. Where CAF is going to help you in your cloud adoption journey using different kind of phases. Now we have WAF, well-architected framework, that is a kind of assessment tool. This assessment tool we use for analyzing different components, especially for the design consideration, design areas. So CAF and WAF, these are two different things. Next is MCRA. In MCRA stands for Microsoft Cybersecurity Reference Architecture. This is a collection of different kind of Microsoft reference architecture, different kind of design, where we see how Microsoft different kind of services and features they are working together, how these are integrated, how we can integrate third-party solutions like ServiceNow and any other third-party SIEM solutions. What kind of ransomware design consideration we have in case of ransomware attack, what we should follow. So you will find different kind of diagrams, different kind of architectures that will help you to understand what kind of native solutions we have in Microsoft and how we can use them to enhance security in cloud. So MCRA, this provides you different kind of diagram related to Microsoft cybersecurity capabilities, zero trust and zero trust ramp, zero trust user access, security operations, SecOps and SOC related design considerations, what comes in operation technology, OT, also what we have in multi-cloud and cross-platform capabilities. We will get diagram related to attack chain coverage, Azure native security solution controls, security organizations, functions. Also, what different kind of ransomware related considerations we have. So these all things, what we have in MCRA, we will have this different kind of reference architecture. And these will present how these different kind of Microsoft services like Microsoft 365, Azure, how third-party applications like ServiceNow and Salesforce will be integrated to each other. Also, how we can bring Amazon Web Services, AWS, and GCP in our design considerations. These all things comes under in this MCRA design. Now, apart from that, we have MCSB. MCSB stands for Microsoft Cloud Security Benchmark. So basically, this is the part of Microsoft Defender for Cloud. MDC. This provides you best practice security recommendations to improve the security of workload, data, and services in your Azure or in your multi-cloud environment. Because this MCSB, especially MDC, we can connect Azure, AWS, GCP, DevOps environment, on-prem environment. We can connect all these places. And here we get MCSB, Microsoft Cloud Security Benchmark recommendations, where we have different kind of control domain. MCSB provides you different kind of recommendations under different control domains. There are 12 different kind of control domain. Related to that, we get recommendations. We can follow the recommendations. We can see what kind of mitigation options we have, how we can resolve them. These kind of options we see under this MCSB. So if you talk about these 12 different kind of, you can say, control domain, what we have in this, let's see. In this MCSB control domain, we have these different kind of control domain options where we have network security, identity management, privileged access, and many others. What you see here in this list, we get recommendation for all these. If there is any kind of matching pattern, any kind of loophole or issues are there that we can see in recommendations, and we can implement, we can configure that to resolve that issue. So we should check this MCSB under MDC related to my existing resources. And yes, we can use this for enhancing security by implementing the recommendations. Now, when we compare MCRA and MCSB, MCRA is a kind of architectural diagram that describes how Microsoft security capabilities integrate with Microsoft and third-party applications and platform. Whereas MCSB is a collection of recommendations, security recommendations that we use. We can use this to enhance security posture in your cloud environment. So this is very helpful. If you want to enhance security, we use MCSB. If we want to see reference architecture, then we have MCRA. Now, if you talk about a attack chain environment, in any attack chain environment, what we see, we can definitely defend our organization from external and internal attacks. In external, we see different kind of attack patterns like phishing email, open attachment, click a URL, browse a website, including command and control, exploitation and installations. Also targeting IoT devices, disturbing the IoT and OT environments, or brute force attack to any identity. Also, user account is compromised. This kind of situation we see. And then data exfiltration, data access, application access, these all things happens. So we see this kind of attack chain across different kind of platforms and places. Also, we see insider risk. Internal users, sometimes they are very dangerous. So we see insider risks, and for that we should have some kind of protection mechanism. So for that, what we see this kind of design where we have Defender for Office 365 for phishing mail, open attachment, click a URL, browse a website, these components. Then we have Defender for IoT and OT environment. So Defender for IoT is for the IoT and OT environment. Then we have Defender for endpoint for my device security. Also for infrastructure as a service and platform as a service in Azure, we have Defender for cloud. So especially for virtual machines, Microsoft Defender for cloud is sufficient. Now then we have Microsoft Intra Identity Protection. This is designed for intra ID related security. But when we talk about what we have for our on-prem Active Directory system security, for on-prem, we have Defender for Identity that can detect what kind of attack patterns we are seeing in ADFS in Active Directory system, and we get the report for that. Also for application security, we have Defender for Cloud Application, where this can detect the attacker's activity on any application, and this can be prevented. So different kind of Defender components that we see here for external attack. Also for internal, we can configure insider risk management. In insider risk management, we have a configuration of leading indicators that we can collect from user. Based on these indicators, we can analyze what kind of behavior the user is performing, what kind of behavior the user is showing here. Behavior is like user is in a data exfiltration, data theft activity. So based on that, we can plan for giving warning to the user, or only informing to the user, or maybe blocking to the user, access and count. That we can achieve in insider risk management. Then we have Security Copilot. Security Copilot helps in analyzing incident and threats, incident and alerts. Whereas Defender, XDR plus Microsoft Sentinel, we can use this to collect signals from all these places for further analytics and maybe for further hunting capabilities. So these are different options, different Defender components that what we use across attack chain. Now, so in Zero Trust model, where we have 6 different pillars: identity, endpoint, network, data, applications, and infrastructure, we see different kind of components that we can use to enhance security. For identity pillar, we can use Microsoft Intra ID, identity protection, workload ID. Then we have Intra ID governance, Defender for identity. These are different things that we can use under identity security. Also for endpoint, we have Intune device management, Defender for endpoint detections, and EDR components. For network, we have Azure networking options. We can use Microsoft Intra conditional access, where we have intra internet access, intra private access for enhancing security around network. For data, we can plan for data encryption or data protection. For that, we have Defender for Office 365, Microsoft Purview, where we have information protection. Microsoft Priva is all things we can use for the data security, data protection. Next is, in applications, we can use GitHub Advanced Security Options, Defender for Cloud Apps. And for infrastructure, we can plan for using Defender for Cloud. We can plan for using Microsoft Intra Permission Management. These components we can use in my Zero Trust architecture approach. So these kind of solutions are going to fit in these all different places differently. Now, so here we see different kind of regulatory compliance in different organizations. What are these regulatory compliances? These regulatory compliances are, you can say, the discipline. These are, you can say, guidelines what any organization is following. In this, you see how company is going to assign different kind of, or how a company is going to align their compliance requirements using different kind of regulatory compliance components. So the most important thing is how we can translate companies' compliance requirements in our implementation. Definitely, when we talk about regulatory compliance, this is not only the customer's responsibility or Microsoft responsibility. This is a joint responsibility between Microsoft and customer. So what we do here, we see what kind of compliance components or compliance recommendations we have in Microsoft. Then you find we have some responsibility available with Microsoft and something is available with customer. So for Microsoft, for sure, they would have already implemented all the compliance requirements and implementations or related settings. But from customer perspective, customer will be responsible for deploying what kind of improvement actions we have. So in this, we look into what kind of recommendations we have available and we plan if we want to implement all or only a specific components what is related to the organization. And the next in compliance journey, you can say a compliance statement can only be made by accrediting authority. So cybersecurity architects, they work with SMEs to gather proof of compliance, what kind of requirements they have, and accordingly they plan if they want to implement different kind of recommendations or improvement actions. So here what we see, we have different kind of regulatory components all across the globe. There are more than 100 plus or the main 100 plus regulatory compliances, but maybe thousands and thousands different kind of regulatory compliances we have that we use in, you can say, in different region, different organizations. Like we have HIPAA, PCI, DSS, you can say, we have personal data related, we have GDPR related, different kind of compliance components that we see in different region and locations. So for these kind of things, what we see, these are different kind of examples for regulatory compliances. Now, if we talk about like if all the organizations are going to follow this, answer is no. Some organizations, they will be following some different standard. Some other organizations, they will be following different standards. These are just only examples what we have. Now, so if we have these standards, if we are following these in our Microsoft environment as well, answer is yes. If your organization is related to any kind of business and that business is depended on maybe any kind of HIPAA or PCI or GDPR, so definitely your company has to follow these kind of regulatory compliances. So definitely we can implement different kind of regulatory recommendations under Microsoft Purview portal, and there we have compliance manager. So there we can use these kind of regulatory compliances related improvement actions that we can implement to enhance more compliance posture in our organization. If you remember, we were talking about these things in our previous day's discussions, that how you can see what kind of compliance manager approach we have, what kind of scoring we have there, and if you want to assess your environment based on any kind of regulatory compliance, how you do it. Now, so here when we talk about Purview risk and compliance solutions, here we have compliance manager, auditing, communication compliance, e-discovery, data lifecycle management, Purview records management, and many other. So basically this is coming under Microsoft Purview risk and compliance solutions, but we have other Purview data security solutions and data governance solutions as well. Now, so if you remember, we're talking about this compliance manager where we see some score and where we see something is in Microsoft responsibility, something in customer responsibility. And we have lots of improvement actions here. So these improvement actions we can deploy if there's any need. Maybe we can go for all or only some of these based on the requirements. So this is a good way to check what kind of compliance posture you have in your organization and how you can enhance this. Now, then we have Microsoft Priva. Now, why we need Priva? I was discussing about, privacy is a very important thing for every company. But how you know that if your organization is properly working in a kind of, your organization is properly working in any for any business actually, and how you'll be sure that your data is properly managed, secure, and properly handled. There's no loophole. For this, manually, if you go for checking these options, this will be time-taking process. So for this, we have Microsoft Priva. Definitely, this is not free. You have to purchase license for this. So in Microsoft Priva, what you can do, you can see privacy assessment. This assesses your environment automatically and discovers different kind of how the personal data is being used, where these are hosted, if you have any kind of loopholes in this, security loopholes. So basically, this gives you your entire data estate. Also, along with this will look into what kind of risk we have, what kind of challenges we have, and this gives option to reduce that risk or mitigate that risk related data. Apart from that, Priva is helpful for tracker, scanning, and also consent management, including subject right request. So a subject right request is a kind of feature, especially in many countries, this is allowed that that employee can ask to the employer to check what kind of personal data they have collected and how they're using it. So if somebody is asking to company that please tell me what kind of data state you have, what kind of personal data you have stored related to me and how you're using it. In this case, we use subject right request feature under Priva. So this is really very helpful. Now, so these are different options we have in Microsoft Priva that we use, and definitely we address what kind of personal data state we have in our organization. And next, so here we see some benchmarks, some kind of, you can say, regulatory compliance related recommendations under Defender for Cloud. The Defender for Cloud gives you can say, benchmark recommendations related to different kind of control domain. And these recommendations you can implement in order to enhance security. So basically what MDC does, MDC assess your environment for current resources and look into that what kind of posture we have there. If we have any configuration loophole, any challenges or any issues, that would be added here under this different control domain. Relate if we have issues in network security, you see these kind of things. If you have challenges in privileged access, you'll have some entries here. So Microsoft Defender for Cloud automatically assesses the environment, the different kind of resources, and gives you these kind of recommendations. Also, when we talk about cloud and multi-cloud environment, they're what we have. So in a pure cloud environment, you will have only the cloud where you are going to deploy your identity and services and these kind of components like groups, objects. We don't have any kind of on-prem interaction in this case. But it may be possible in some organization, they have a properly working Active Directory system, and that is hosting thousands of objects. Are you going to create these objects again in Azure in your cloud adoption journey? The answer is no. We should not do this. For that, we have directory synchronization, and there we use a tool that is Microsoft Intra Connect Sync or Cloud Sync. Microsoft Intra Cloud Sync you can also use. So in this, when we use that tool, we can sync my on-prem Active Directory system to Intra ID. And if we are syncing, we will sync objects, groups, user accounts to our Azure environment, to your Intra ID. But in some situation, like for example, you are using any kind of on-prem application that is a legacy application and purely designed for working with Active Directory Domain Service. If you are going to migrate that application in Azure environment where we have Intra ID, so that application will not work with Intra ID. Why? that application will not work with Intra-ID because Intra-ID is using modern authentication and authorization capabilities. And it will be possible your that legacy application is dependent on on-prem Active Directory LDAP, Kerberos, NTLM design. So in this situation, what do you say? In this situation, we have intra-domain service capabilities. In intra-domain service, what we see that we will deploy a kind of hosted service that is DC and ADC, and we connect our legacy application to that intra-domain service instead connecting to the intra-ID. So we have legacy support as well. And that legacy support is very helpful. But for that, you have to deploy a hosted domain service. Now, in the last and very complex, you see Active Directory Federation services. In Active Directory Federation services, we can achieve single sign-on. So basically here, if you want to keep my authentication in my on-prem Active Directory, and I want to use intra-ID only for authorization. So in that situations, we can use Active Directory Federation service. That's a kind of complex design where we need ADFS system in my on-prem and then ADFS proxy systems, enabling federation between intra-ID to this ADFS servers and services. These all things we need. Then only we can implement this Active Directory Federation services for single sign-on and these capabilities. Now, what next we have in this? So talking about for directory synchronization, we use intra-connect sync tool. Intra-connect sync tool we can use where we install this tool in on-premises as a kind of, you can say, on-prem tool. Here, we have to keep in mind that in intra-connect sync tool, we will have a very good footprint for this in on-premises. And if we have good footprints, it means we will have a dedicated server for this, high availability system for this, and many other components. Now, so when we talk about these intra-connect sync, what it does, this will enable a synchronization service between on-prem Active Directory server and intra-connect or basically intra-ID, where we can not only sync the identity, but we can sync the passwords as well. Now, so we can achieve password hash sync, we can achieve pass-through authentication, we can achieve federated authentication options here if I want using this intra-connect sync tool. But in case if you don't want to deploy a kind of footprint here, in this situation, what we see, we have intra-cloud sync. In cloud sync, it's a kind of cloud tool, and we install some lightweight agents here for directory synchronization. These lightweight agents, they will sync the on-prem Active Directory system to intra-ID in cloud. And this is lightweight. This is very easy to deploy. So, but here you will have only one challenge that you will not have full control like intra-connect tool that you install in your on-prem. So you'll have less visibility related to the logs, processes that will be missing. But yeah, this is easy to deploy and you can deploy this quickly to achieve this directory synchronization. Also for Active Directory domain service security in on-prem, we have Defender XDR solution where we have in this solution, we have Microsoft Defender for Identity. This Microsoft Defender for Identity, this solution represents this gives you on-prem Active Directory security, because this is possible that similar to the intra ID, you may see attack to your on-prem Active Directory system. And do we have any inbuilt mechanism that can detect these kind of on-prem attack? Answer is no. We don't have anything that can detect these kind of attack patterns in your on-prem Active Directory system. So especially for not only for identity, this Active Directory system, but any system that is involved in any kind of identity activities like ADFS, for that, we have Microsoft Defender for Identity. This Defender for Identity is a combination of a dashboard in cloud and also MDI sensor, Microsoft Defender for Identity sensors. That sensors we install in our ADFS system, domain controller machines. We install, we register this one to Microsoft Defender for Identity, and we start, detecting what kind of behavior attack patterns we have in this. Now, what next we have in this? Let's see. So basically, in this Defender for Identity, we can achieve this kind of Active Directory system ADFS related security. But we have other Defender components that gives you different kind of other security options. So whenever you're looking for on-prem attack patterns, on-prem attack situations, you can go for this Defender for Identity. In modern authentication in Intra ID, we have modern authentication design where we use modern protocol like OAuth, OpenID Connect, OIDC, or SAML for authentication. And for that, we use different kind of passwordless authentication model. Windows Hello for Business, FIDO2 security keys, certificate-based authentication, CBA, Microsoft Authenticator app, platform credentials for Mac. These are different things we see. We can also use single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, authentication methods for hybrid identity solutions. So these are different things that we can achieve in modern authentication. Like also, if you are in a hybrid directory synchronization, you can achieve intra-password hash synchronization, password authentication, and federated authentication. Apart from that, you can achieve verified ID, verifiable credential. Now, this is something you can say interesting that we have modern authentication options that is industry ready. Now, we have conditional access. Conditional access gives you control based on what different kind of signals you are going to detect. So based on conditions, based on user, device, location, for these conditions, you can disable or enable the access to the resources. Now, what are the benefits you see? Conditional access can be used to create policy to block legacy applications, enabling MFA for all the user. This kind of policy you can achieve, you can create in conditional access. Now, what next we have in this? What kind of other understanding we have in this SC100? Let's see. For identity protection, especially for intra ID, do we have any security? Answer is yes. We use this identity protection option. This is the part of intra ID Premium 2 license. And what it does, this detects user risk, sign-in risks, and risky behavior, risky workload identities. This will detect, and we can plan, we can create policy using conditional access to block or grant the access. Also, we get a dashboard for all the activity and logging behavior. We can see it. We can send this identity protection logs to Sentinel in case if you want to analyze it further. And if you want to route this to third-party SIEM solution, so this is also possible here. So different kind of security things we see for intra identities, and we achieve this in intra ID protection option. Apart from that, When we talk about what different types of identities are possible, so there are different types of identities that are possible. Like if you talk about human, for human, we have internal user, employees, and then we have, you can say, external user, guest, partner, customer, and so on. There may be different kind of identity types. Apart from that, we have workload identities like service principal, managed identities that we can use. Basically, these identities we can assign to our resources in embedded form, or we can use this, we can store this in Key Vault, where one resource, if they want to access any other resource, so they will bring this identity, they access this identity from Key Vault and then access other resource. That kind of design we have also possible. Also in this Azure or Intra environment, we see different kind of device registrations. So first we have Intra ID registered, that is especially designed for bring your own device. And Intra ID join, this is purely registered to Intra ID. And third is hybrid join, where we have device registered with on-prem Active Directory and also to Microsoft Intra ID. Here we need a co-management, a management application in on-prem, that is kind of configuration manager, and one another that is in cloud, that is Intune. Here we get a co-management option to manage our devices either from on-prem application or from the cloud Intune. So if you want to secure workload identities, you can use Key Vault to secure your data here in Key Vault. Key Vault stores your secrets, keys, and certificates. Now, so if you're using Key Vault, there are different kind of available options in this. So in this Key Vault, we have default standard FIPS 140-2 level 1 validated, a software-based multi-tenant cloud key management solution that will be used by multiple tenants. Then we have Key Vault Premium. This is basically designed for multi-tenant, but based on a kind of hardware security module. But this is FIPS 140-2 level 2 validated. Then we have dedicated HSM. So basically here we have single tenant HSM hardware security module, where this is level 3, FIPS 142-2, 140-2 level 3 validated. Now in case, if you're planning for dedicated HSM, in dedicated HSM, what we have, we can get a bare metal HSM device, bare metal HSL general purpose HSM appliance, where you will keep all the data secure. And in the last, if you are looking for any kind of HSM hardware appliance that should be PCI DSS compliant, especially for payment card industry, compliant for payment related workloads, so you can plan for Azure payment HSMs. These are different options that we have here that we see if you want to manage Azure Key Vault. Now, when we move towards secure score, we have secure score options in M365. Also, we have secure score in MDC, Microsoft Defender for Cloud. So when we talk about Microsoft 365, we have this kind of secure score options where we can see the score and we see the improvement actions, how we can improve. This is a score. In a similar way, in Azure environment, what we have secure score available in Microsoft Defender for Cloud. We see what kind of recommendations we have there, how we can enhance security, how we can enhance security posture in that organization. So we have to keep an eye on secure score. Also in Compliance Manager, we have compliance scoring, looking into why this is getting decreased, or we have some recommendations that we should implement. So this we can achieve, this we can enhance, and we can create more secure environment. Now in Defender product, we have different kind of Defender options. We have Defender XDR. This is the main portal where we have Defender for Endpoint, Office 365 identity, cloud applications, vulnerability management. Apart from that, definitely we have Microsoft Security Copilot plugin that we can add in these different products under embedded experience. So these are some kind of Defender things that we see. Depending on the need, we can use them. Most of the Defender products are available in Microsoft 365 license, but if you see that this is missing in any E3 license in Microsoft 365, so what you can do, you can purchase these and you can add in your tenant. So this is very useful, very different kind of useful applications, services that we can use for security. Now for data security, we have this purview data security option where we have data loss prevention. We have DSPM, data security posture management, purview information protection, insider risk management, information barrier, and privilege access management. So in this, what is information protection? So basically here what we do, we classify the data, that what data is in general condition, secret, highly confidential, and we first classify them, and then after we use labels, and we create sensitivity label that includes encryption, access control, watermarking. These all things we apply under information protection. If you want to control exposure, data oversharing, in that case, we use data loss prevention DLP option. DLP again works with sensitive information types, sensitive information or data classification, but this is going to be applied to the components automatically. Now, in this automatic design, DLP works very well in email, Teams, SharePoint, OneDrive, and other different places like different of the cloud apps, Microsoft Power Platform, and the Microsoft Power Platform components, where DLP will be able to prevent sensitive data exposure. Apart from that, we have DSPM. DSPM is for data security posture management. This monitor cross cloud data and user risks through dynamic reports and trend analysis. So this is something that what we have. Also what we get insider risk management. In this insider risk management, we can detect our internal user behavior. And then we can check if this is malicious or not, if this is a kind of sign of data exfiltration, maybe data exfiltration and data theft kind of activities. These all things we can check here in insider risk management. But first we have to collect the data and collect the signals from the end user. We call it indicators. Now, what we have in information barrier is basically to restrict the communication between different segments, different groups in your organization. So here we use this information barrier between Microsoft Teams, SharePoint Online, and OneDrive for Business. Why? Because this is not available for emails. In emails, we use transport rules or mail flow rules to restrict communication. Sometimes there is a need between, like, I want to disable communication between R&D team and others. I want R&D team will be only responsible to communicate with maybe only to HR and C-level managers, or maybe accounts team. And other team should not be able to communicate to R&D team directly, like sales, marketing, IT, and others. That you can configure in information barrier. Next is privileged access management. In privileged access management, we basically this is kind of part of your permission control access management, where we configure granular control for services and specific features. For example, applying exchange admin rights to someone will have all the rights in exchange. But under the exchange, we have recipient management. if I assign only recipient management to someone, that comes under this privileged access management. Because we are providing specific permissions for activities, not for the entire product. Now, in this word, we have three seats of Copilot. Copilot is the kind of generative AI solution from Microsoft. This will enhance your productivity across different applications like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, Teams, and Edge browser, and many other applications where we can use this kind of Copilot. So this will enhance security. This will not enhance security, but this will help to enhance productivity. But if you want to use Copilot in security, so we have another Copilot license, that is Security Copilot, that helps you in analyzing alert and incidents. Now, what next we have in this? We're also talking about in MCSB, we have DevOps security recommendation that comes under DS, DS1, DS2, DS3, DS4, DS5, DS6, and DS7. So these are different kind of DevSecOps security recommendations like conducted modeling, ensure software supply chain security, secure DevOps infrastructure, integrate static application security testing into DevOps pipeline, integrate dynamic security testing, dynamic application security testing, also enforce security of workload throughout DevOps lifecycle, enable logging and monitoring in DevOps. These are all different things that these recommendations we have for the DevOps security options. So we have Defender for Cloud, where we can connect these kind of DevOps environment like GitHub, Azure DevOps, and we see recommendations for this, security recommendations. If we are using these repositories to keep our applications code safe, or maybe we are using these places for versioning control or for CI/CD pipeline, so we can see recommendations related to these kind of DevOps environment as well. Now, what next we have? We see application lifecycle management in container applications. So here we use Microsoft Defender for containers, that is a part of MDC, that gives you security not only for the container, but also for the orchestration design that what you see in Azure Kubernetes services. That is something that we see in Azure Container Application Security. Also for application security from outside, from internet, we can use Web Application Firewall. That firewall is available in two different solutions, that is Azure Application Gateway and Azure Front Door. This WAF is based on OWASP technology, OWASP standard. So this is something that we can implement if we want to enable security for my applications. So here, basically this is like Azure Application Gateway is a regional component and Front Door is a kind of global component. So we plan for how we want to implement this WAF. So basically WAF protects your organization against cross-site scripting, Java attacks, local file inclusion, PHP injection attacks, remote command execution, remote file inclusions, session fixations, SQL injection protection, protocol attackers, many different things we see here. So we can use this in Azure Front Door or in Azure Application Gateway for regional in Application Gateway and global in Front Door service. Now in the same, if you talk about IS security, we have some recommendations here. For IS security, we have different kind of recommendations. Like we can protect VM by using authentication and access control. We can protect against malware, managing your VM security posture. Also encrypt your virtual hard disk files using storage encryptions, or if possible, use BitLocker. You can use multiple VM for better availability using availability zone or availability sets. You can manage your VM updates. Regular patching, regular installation is very important. Monitor VM performance. Also, restrict direct internet connectivity if possible. You can use other methods if you want to present your this kind of if you want to present this kind of VM. By any chance you have to update or we have to present this VM over the internet, we can use different methods. In PaaS security, in platform as a service security, what we can adopt policy to identify primary security requirements, primary security parameters. We can develop these kind of platform as a service components on Azure App Services. Here we get different kind of security and other controls, backup, security, monitoring, logging, all these things you see here. We can also consider using web application firewall if possible. Also monitor the performance of your applications and monitoring. You can use threat modeling using OWASP or Stride threat modeling components to enable security or during the designing the application. We have cloud service extended support, DDoS protection, and perform security pen testing wherever is possible. So for web workload security recommendations, we have recommendations like always use HTTPS connection recommendations, disable insecure protocol like HTTP, create static IP restrictions. You can enable client authentication authorization, do not store application secrets inside the code, always use key vault, implement network isolation if possible. So here we can use Microsoft Defender for app services where we get security recommendations, security assessment, and threat detections. Now, what next we have? In Microsoft Defender for Cloud, basically we get two services, CWP, Cloud Workload Protection, and we have Cloud Posture Management. So Cloud Security Posture Management, CSPM. These are two main things that we see under MDC. MDC can connect Azure, AWS, GCP, on-prem, other different kind of repositories that we use in development. So this can connect and this can give you recommendations, analysis, assessment for these environments. So basically, we get here two different kind of services, CSPM and CWP. So basically in CSPM, we have two different kind of options, CSPM free and Defender CSPM. CSPM free gives you centralized policy management, secure score, multi-cloud coverage, and cloud security posture management, CSPM by default. But Defender CSPM gives you additional services like advanced cloud security posture management, governance, regulatory compliance, cloud security explorer, and attack path analysis, cloud security explorer, security governance, and many advanced features. Also, we get different kind of CWP, cloud workload protection here. In cloud workload protection, we see that Defender for servers we have, Defender for storage we have, Defender for SQL, or Defender for database we have, Defender for container we have to protect these different kind of workloads. Defender for app services, key vault and resource manager we have, Defender for API we have. And apart from that, we have security alerts and incident management that we see under Defender for cloud. So this is basically what we have in Defender, Microsoft Defender for Cloud component, CWP, Cloud Workload Protection, and CSPM, Cloud Security Posture Management. This is something that what we have in revising the main topics what we have covered in our last 4-day session. Now, let's see what we have in certification overview. So in a report, Microsoft especially Pearson VUE presents that this is very important to get certified. If you get certified, like you can say 91% of candidate experience increased confidence, 76% felt greater job satisfaction, 28% earned a pay increase. So region may be different, but getting certified is always good. So if you're planning for SC 100 exam, we have some guidelines here. You get around 40 to 60 questions. Time you get around 100 to 120 minutes. And you'll have different kind of question patterns. You may have multiple choice questions. You will have, selecting 2 to 3 correct answers in one question, drag and drop, case study with questions. Passing score would be 700 out of 1000 that you have to score. So if you want to prepare your exam, what kind of resources we have? Let's see. For that, if you go to SC 100 exam, I'll go for the first link, that is official Microsoft link. This page gives you all the information about exam preparation and exam booking and other different kind of services and features you see here. So first of all, here you have exam prep videos. If you go for this, you see here we have a summary of different kind of discussions. There are total 4 video series in this. This will summarize different kind of topics, different kind of modules. So before exam, you can use this kind of exam prep video series that you can find here in this exam page directly here. If you want to see from which section, what kind of questions, what kind of topics will be inside the exam, so you can use this study guide. And here you see they present what is the weightage for any topic in this exam. So from this, we have all the subcategories. 20 to 25% questions would be from here. Then under identity and compliance, 25 to 30%. And these are subtopics here. And then again, 25 to 30% for design security solutions for infrastructure. And you can see the subcategory of the topics we have here in this. So different kind of things we have, like 20 to 25% design security solutions for applications and data. So this is something very helpful to see what different kind of question weightage we have, from which topic we get more questions, from which topic we get less questions. And that you see under study guide. Apart from that, you can take a free practice assessment here. You can click here, you can log in, and you can see a set of 50 questions that you can test and try to enhance your knowledge. So how exam looks like, you can use this exam sandbox. Now this is the kind of look and feel what you see in real exam. Doesn't matter you're going to book your exam in Pearson VUE Center, or you are going to appear in this exam from your home or office. That is possible. So you can click on yes, I agree. And it gives you information that what is the time duration for this exam, how many questions we have, how many standalone questions we have, how many case studies we have, how many labs we have. Sometimes you get labs where you will have a kind of virtual machine and this will ask you to complete some activities and tasks. That system will check if you have completed it very well or not. Also, minimum score, you can see 700 when you go in real exam. Right now it's 0. Click next. And this is a sandbox just to see, look and feel how these exam looks like. So you can click on start exam, next, and this kind of question format you see. So you can explore this once if you want to be familiar with what different kind of questions and patterns we see in exam preparation in this in real exam engine that we get from Pearson VUE. So these are different options that you can learn from here. And also you can see example videos, study guide, and many other like practice assessment questions we have here we have. Now what next? So here is a kind of sandbox environment. So you can explore that if you like to. And you see these kind of weightage here from different section. We have almost around similar percentage. So we can plan for watch example videos, review the exam study guide. You can take practice assessment, and you can use the demo sandbox environment to be familiar with what different kind of exam patterns we have. So this is some kind of information related to the SC100 Microsoft Cybersecurity Architect exam preparation. Now here I have some questions for you for knowledge check. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to present the question. I'll give you 2 minutes to think about. You will guess answer, and then after I'll present the answer, what is correct. And then you can check your answer if this is matching with the correct answer or not. So let's see what we have. Here comes the first question on the screen. Please read this carefully. Take time. I'm giving you 2 minutes of time to read and check or guess the answer. The time starts now. All right, so let's see what we have the answer. The question is, your company has Microsoft 365 subscription. If you have subscription, the chief compliance officer plans to enhance privacy management in the working environment. You need to recommend a solution to enhance the privacy management, and the solution must meet the following requirements. What are these? Identify unused personal data and empower user to make smart data handling decisions. provide user with notifications and guidance when a user sends personal data in Microsoft Teams, and provide user with recommendations to mitigate privacy risks. Now, what do you use? If you are guessing it correctly, you have to use privacy risk management in Microsoft Priva. Now, what next we have in this? Here, I'm going to present another question. Again, you will get 2 minutes to think about, and then I'll discuss about what is the correct answer for that question. So let's see what we have in this. And here comes the second question. All right, so let's talk about what we have in, what kind of answer we have for this question. So basically, question is you have an Azure subscription that has Microsoft Defender for Cloud enabled subscription. This is going to detect suspicious authentication activities. Alerts had been appearing in workload production dashboard. So here we have some kind of, we have to select some kind of recommendations for. So we need to recommend a solution to evaluate and remediate the alerts by using workflow automation. The solution must minimize development efforts. What you will recommend? Now, notice this one, suspicious authentication activity alert has been appearing in the workload production dashboard in MDC. And the requirement is we have to recommend a solution to evaluate and remediate the alert by using workflow. What we use? The answer is logic apps. When it comes for when basically this is related to the logic apps. So logic apps gives you the automation options for remediating the alerts, and we can configure this automation for future. That's why we have this answer correct here for this question number 2. Now, what about another question here? Let's see what we have in this next one. Here for this, I'll give you 3 minutes. Here, the important point is that you have to select 2 answers, not 1. So please read this question and guess your answer. Then I will present what is the correct answer here in this. All right, so let's see what we have in this question number 3 answer. So question is, your company is moving a big data solution to Azure. The company plans to use following storage workloads: Azure Storage Blob Container, Azure Data Lake Storage Generation 2. For file shares, they are planning to use Azure Disk Storage. Which two storage workload supports authentication by using Azure Active Directory? That you have to select. We have to understand, we have to look into in these blob container, data lake generation 2, and disk storage, which two options supports authentication using Azure Active Directory or Intra IDE? What are the two correct answers? Blob containers and data lake storage generation 2. So disk storage is not compatible to this Intra ID related authentication. So similar kind of these questions you will also see in exam, but there will be different kind of other questions like matchmaking, drag and drop. Also, you will see case study. Basis on that case study, you will have 4 to 5 questions. Also, you will see some kind of questions in drop down, fill in the blanks. These are different kind of questions you see in exam that you can prepare for this. We have lots of resources in Microsoft exam page and many other places over the internet. So that's all for all these 5-day training session in this SC100. I hope you enjoyed this all 5-day session. This 5-day session learning is going to enhance your understanding around SC100. So I'd say thank you so much for participating in this 5-day SC100 sessions. Keep learning and have a nice rest of the day. See you in other future sessions. Bye-bye for now. Thank you.
Technology is moving fast. Closing the skills gap can help your team optimize and stay focused on what's ahead, rather than constantly playing tech catch-up. That's why it's important to keep Microsoft certifications active. Here's everything you need to know about renewing your team's certifications. We have introduced a free certification renewal process for role-based and specialty certifications to help you stay current with skills you need to remain up to date in your job role. Please note that the fundamentals certifications do not expire. In order to renew, you don't need to schedule and take an exam through Pearson VUE. Assessments are shorter than the exam. We encourage you to renew early, as soon as you are eligible. You won't lose time by renewing early, as the extension date is not based on the date that you choose to renew, but 1 year from certification expiration date. To access renewal assessment, you need to connect your certification profile to your Microsoft Learn profile only the first time. Once connected, you don't need to repeat this step in future to access renewal assessments. You can take the assessment as many times as you need. But after the second try, you will need to wait at least 24 hours before your next attempt. Embracing a growth mindset and the need for continuous learning can help you optimize and successfully perform in job roles. With a renewed Microsoft certification, globally recognized and industry-endorsed evidence of mastered real-world skills, you will also be able to demonstrate your proficiency in keeping pace with technology.